All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's Hangout on Air for all you guys in Northern Europe. I'm very excited to be back. I've been gone for a little while, but I should be a familiar face to most of you. And for the ones of you who have not joined before, welcome. So my name is Jonas. I am an account manager in the Google Marketing Solutions team working for the Danish market. And I'm here today with my colleague, Alexandra.
Yeah, hi everyone. You actually saw me last week. And last week I introduced myself as the official stand-in. That is still the case. I'm standing in for a what right now. So my name is Alexandra, as I mentioned. I'm an account manager also for the Google Marketing Solutions team for the Belgian markets. So that's it. And for everyone asking us last week if we survived the beast from the east, we are living proof that we survived the beast. Barely. Yeah, very difficultly.
Your people are usually
not
pretty used to this.
No.
All right. Cool, everyone. So we have quite a packed agenda today. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off by starting to talk a little bit about mobile speed, which we also talked about last time, but we're just going to continue that conversation. We're going to introduce a few interesting things that we just launched, and then we're going to give a quick update on a product, which is dynamic remarketing on Gmail. And then we're going to talk more detail about how you get ready for Easter, which is the big season coming up.
Yeah. It's not a Hangouts on Air if we don't talk about mobile. Yeah. And if we don't talk about trainings as well.
Cool. That's exactly true. So we always start by talking about the training. So there's not so many updates from our point of view right now. But in Sweden, there's a mobile advertising training in Stockholm on the 21st of March. That one, there's still room. And then in Copenhagen, there is video advertising on the same day. So that's definitely an opportunity. On the March 20th in Helsinki, there's mobile advertising, but this one is already fully booked. And unfortunately, no more trainings in this quarter for Norway.
Yeah, but after March, it picks up again. Yeah. Same type of news for the Netherlands and Belgium. So the Netherlands had 2 video advertising trainings on March the 16th. It's half-day trainings, that's why. But they're also unfortunately fully booked, as is the case for the training taking place in Belgium, which is focused on mobile advertising. So I hope that you got to register. If not, keep that in mind for next time to register in time. There's plenty of trainings coming up in April, May, June, and just make sure you go on the websites soon enough to register. And if you want to take it sooner, you can also just follow the training online because they're all available online.
Yep. And for the few trainings we have that still have room, please remember to sign up individually if you decide to do it, just for us to have enough room and snacks and so on.
Yeah, very important.
Cool.
All right.
So quick update, just following up on all the important stuff we're talking about, why mobile is essential and thinking about speed and so on. We have introduced a tool called the Mobile Speed Scorecard. And the whole point of this is basically for you to kind of benchmark yourself against competitors. So let's say you have 3 main competitors. What you can basically do in this tool is you list in the domain of all these, and then we will go in and we will rank you compared to those competitors. This will be done based on speed, and you can kind of select if this should be done with 4G or 3G and so on. So really good tool to benchmark yourself against competitors and to make sure that you can be best in class or your clients can be best in class.
Yeah. Exactly. I think a lot of you are usually asking for benchmarks, but there's actually no better benchmark than your peers. So that's also why this scorecard was developed. So please make sure you use it. It's a good tool.
So this is definitely a good one. And then what is maybe even more interesting is I often hear, at least, that people are struggling justifying why should we really make an impact on our mobile speed, for example. It's costly, it takes resources, it takes time, and there's many things you want to prioritize. So for this, we developed this impact calculator, which is basically where you type in your domain, you type in the speed you have, and then how many visitors, the order value, average order value when people are ordering, and then the conversion rate. So when you type in all this, then we will basically go in and say, hey, if you were to increase the speed with so and so and so, then this is how much extra revenue you could potentially be getting. So of course, this is an estimate, but it's based on very solid data that we see in average. So we see that for example, for each delay we have in on a loading, for each second delay we have in loading time, we see a 20% drop in conversions. So this is what we're using this kind of data to estimate.
And I think this is a tool that was mostly designed for the middle people. So if you're an agency, a freelancer, and you have some difficulties driving the message home of just the urgency and the importance of mobile speed, I think that's a great way to build up your argumentation.
Definitely, yes. Yeah. So go ahead and check it out. It's a great tool.
Yeah. All right.
All right. And then a quick update. So this is mainly for e-commerce companies, but of course also for other people using dynamic remarketing. So basically, a lot of you are probably familiar with doing dynamic remarketing, which has basically been on the display network. So what we have done recently is introduce dynamic remarketing on Gmail as well, which is the same idea, but here you will just have a Gmail ad instead. And what happens, as you can see here, is that people will see it as an ad, and when they click on it, they will get an overview of a few products that they will be able to go in and buy based on their behavior on your site. It's relatively easy to set up. You just set up a normal Gmail campaign, and then you attach a feed and you create a dynamic ad. So just like with a normal dynamic remarketing campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And it uses actually all the benefits that you get from dynamic remarketing usually. It's very highly targeted, highly personalized, plus it's right in your inbox, so convenience-wise, I think that's a great combo. So feel free to use it out and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
Cool. And then for kind of the last part of this Hangouts on Air, we wanted to kind of set the spotlight on Easter. We ended the last Hangouts on Air with a listing of upcoming seasonalities, of upcoming events that can be interesting for commercial purposes. But we wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive for Easter. So please feel free to give us your feedback as to how what you think of this and what you think of the insights. And if you're looking for more insights, of course. So what we want to do is kind of share what we have internally and spread it back to the people. So basically, Easter, we see that there's like a growing interest, especially year on year, when it comes to the queries and the search of queries that we see popping up concerning Easter. And we actually see that rise happening right after Christmas. It's already starting to rise up. So you might not think or take your time before actually taking action on Easter, but just know that users on our platforms are actually looking for Easter-related queries or looking for anything Easter-related, even starting in December. Year on year, we see a growth. You see double-digit growth. That's always interesting to keep in mind. And it's one of those trends that sometimes you don't see popping up early enough. So that's why we're also raising the question. The reason why we're also showing you this is because it's interesting for different types of verticals and industries. So Easter is not just about celebrations. Of course, everything that's gift related, retail related is going to be a big vertical when it comes to the Easter time. But so is everything related to home improvement, for example, food or travel. So the statistics or the metrics you see here actually relate to all types of searches that happen 2 weeks and during the Easter week, 2 weeks before and during the Easter week. So we see 45% of people are looking for Easter eggs, which is natural Easter hunt. 25% of people are looking for household do-it-yourself blog posts, tutorials, and 14% of them are looking at making home-related purchases. So the example I was giving to Jonas as well is, for example, in Belgium, home improvement is actually very important at the moment because we have a lot of big fairs like Batibouw happening around that time. So that trend is going to continue throughout Easter. A lot of people are planning to attend dinners or to host them. So looking for recipes, maybe something special to buy when it comes to food, new types of experiences. So keep that in mind as well. And a lot of people go on holiday. Of course, it's a long weekend. Most of us get the Friday and the Monday off. So it's a long weekend. Think about the things you do yourself during a long weekend. And holidays is, if you can, usually also a good thing to do at that time. So now we're just going to look at some points for each of these verticals. Going back to the home improvement one. This is for the UK, but in the UK, 1 in 5 people are actually planning to do some home improvement during the long Easter weekend. That's interesting for both if you're selling stuff that can help when it comes to home improvement, or if you're more into teaching, education, tutorials. So think upper funnel, YouTube, display, all of that type of content that is interesting to someone who's looking to do those type of works around the house during the long weekends. I'm not that proactive when it comes to it, but a lot of people are. When it comes to food, maybe a special deep dive when it comes to YouTube. I think that's something I've done in the past for sure, is looking up recipes on YouTube or just looking on Google itself to try to find special recipes, learn something new. Just know that during the Easter week, there's 12% more views in recipes than during the whole of March. And the growth is triple-digit growth, so that's very interesting. And to give you an example of an advertiser that took action on this trend, you have Waitrose, which is a supermarket chain in the UK, that, for example, during the Easter weekend advertised by using a masthead on YouTube, that's the one you see on the left, and also using TrueView Discovery formats on the right. So what they did, for example, is they made an ad in the form of a recipe. So you're actually learning how to make an Easter cake, but at the same time, all the ingredients you will need are available at Waitrose. So that's a very great way of doing content marketing. And that's kind of the out-of-the-box ways you can just really build a commercial plan around events like Easter. So I think that was a great example.
So try to think really, like here you see, of course, the advertising part, but try to think as Alexandra says, content, like what is the content strategy? So even try to think, should we create new YouTube videos on the channel that people can find organically? Should we create certain articles on the website to kind of create that content push, and just how can we leverage the insights that we just gave you in terms of all this do-it-yourself interest and so on.
And the food, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And continuing on that is, for example, if you're active in any type of activities, entertainment. That's also, you want to make sure you're visible at that time, because the growth inquires when it comes to activities, what to do during a long weekend, what to do near you, what to do with your kids, fun things to do. Well, the growth is just, again, double to triple the digits during that time. So just making sure now that you're prepared to be able to reception that type of volume, both organically, paid search, paid advertising wise, is interesting. So look at bid modifiers, look at making sure that you have ways to reception these type of keywords. Is it dynamic search ads? Is it adding those keywords to campaigns? Making sure that you just have the content on your website for organic results. That's just all types of way to make sure that you can actually benefit from an opportunity like this one.
I think something that comes to my mind from seeing these numbers is the whole near me part. So we always see, but for example, like Christmas, we see the same with the increase in near me search queries right up to Christmas evening. Yeah. Because, for example, this is when people can no longer have shipments coming online. So if you have any like local store, for example, really think this into the strategy. And you could do this in several ways, of course, by adding keywords and so on. But it could also be that you go in and then you use your Google My Business location to kind of bid up in the near area. So you say in a radius of 2 kilometers around my store, I want to put a bid modifier during Easter, because I really want to capture that increased interest in nearby locations.
Absolutely. And I think another point that's interesting here to make is the growth here is not just when it comes to the activity, but look at the type of query that is being made. It's a natural language query. So this growth is also one that's fostered by voice, for example. So you can imagine that the growth comes from much more from queries coming from assistants on phones, and so also that's another other important point to take into account is that there's also much more search queries happening in the natural language, and we see that in periods like a holiday, for example. So that's also important to take home.
Definitely.
Which brings me then to mobile, again, very important. We will never cease to try to create the urgency around mobile. But I think this is an interesting one to also realize just the traffic that's coming in, what type of traffic is coming in during such a holiday or a long weekend. So if you look, like this is from 2016, so you can just imagine that mobile has been growing again by double digits since, so these numbers are even bigger now. But when you look at the start of the long weekend on the Friday and it ends on the Easter Monday, there's the segment of mobile traffic rises up to 60 to 70% of the entire traffic comes from mobile, compared to the 40s, low 40s before and after, which just mean that you will be much more visible on mobile. The users are going to require you to be visible on mobile. Just again, think about those recipes, look at those blog posts, you're with the family, it's much easier to just look something up on your smartphone. So just take that into account. Remember, again, that means that it's important to be fast, it's important to be user-friendly at that time, because the traffic is just going to be so much more demanding of you and your website at that time.
So there's an interesting point, I think, and there's many ways to deal with mobile and this increased use of mobile during an event, I would say. One thing could be you use mobile bids, or you really, at least I would really look at the average position during Easter. Like, are you suddenly see a drop? Do you see a drop in the position on mobile? Yeah. Then maybe this is where you want to make an effort to really get a better position.
Yeah. Or even like experiment with things. If you haven't tried any call extensions or message extensions in the past, this is a great time to do it, because you will have some traffic that's quite important and great ways to test out mobile formats. So think about that as well. I think that's really interesting.
Could also be, for example, going back to the near me part that we mentioned before, that you start working with ad customizers. So let's say you create an ad. Yeah. That basically says, if people are searching on mobile during these 5 days or 4 days, I want to make sure that I put a slightly different message highlighting that you are nearby or whatever this could be.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Think about high personalization, make it convenient for the user, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
So we hope this was kind of useful, a good way to trigger some and spark some creativity when it comes to your strategies. Do we have, oh no, sorry, before I even go to the questions. So basically the whole point of this whole Easter part is we want to make sure that you are prepared for this. So know that this is important, it's a new trend. You want to be able to prepare, you want your accounts to be prepared for such surges in queries. Evolve your content, make it personalized, make it convenient again. Just make sure it's there. Content is key. And YouTube is actually also a great place to do all things Easter. Again, thinking about that do-it-yourself segment and so on. So that was kind of the wrap-up of the whole Easter egg. Cool. All right, do we have any questions that we could answer?
Let's have a quick look here. So we got quite a few comments. Luckily, it seems like some of you actually answered them for each other.
Okay. That's great community, guys.
So let's see, like, first of all, in terms of South Africa trainings, unfortunately, I am not sure. I would advise to check out the partners page. Yeah. And if you cannot find any insights here, please just shoot them an email, and I'm sure they will be happy to answer.
Just Google Partners South Africa, and it will be.
And then in terms of of where you can find the mobile speed scorecard, then definitely as
great answers.
Great answer here. Please just make a quick search on Google or go to Think with Google, and you will find this.
Yeah, through Think with Google.
In terms of I'm not sure. So my Dutch is a little bit.
Oh yeah, the question is the scorecard. Can it only be used for 3G? No, you can actually choose different types of networks.
Yeah. So choose different networks. Yeah. In terms of
most ingredients will arrive late for Easter weekend. True, which is why we're talking about it now, 3 weeks in advance. So, for example, I know in Belgium, like the typical delivery time is between 5 to 7 days. So make sure you build up for that. But then we're really just talking about the food type of segment. If you're into, again, entertainment activities, that's something that's going to happen on the weekend themselves. So for sure, delivery times, very important to take into account at all times.
Definitely. And then seems like Rob here had an issue with domain not included in our data set. So I will say that I'm not entirely sure with this message here, but I will say that this is a relatively new tool. It might not have all data yet. So if you're having difficulties adding this, it's probably because it's still a work in progress, but you should definitely still be able to find ways to get some solid insights from it.
Like every other tool, we always have ways to leave feedback as well. Those are really read and used and very insightful for us. So if you find any type of bug, always file it. Very important for us.
Yeah. And then in terms of, so now we're getting some not related questions to the Hangout here. But I think in terms of analyzing device-based users, so I guess this means
the device breakdowns like we just showed for Easter. Yeah. I think, as you mentioned, Google Trends is a good one. For sure, if you are a manager, you have any type of contact person, an account manager like ourselves, you can always ask us if we have access to anything.
I would actually the main thing I would use here is the consumer parameter. So this is available. So just make a search on Google for consumer parameter. And in this one, you will actually see device usage and so on. So this should be pretty solid insights for you here.
And again, don't hesitate to look at your own data, first-party data. Open your Google Analytics, look at device breakdown traffic there. Sometimes you can really be surprised by even the traffic that comes in on your own website.
Definitely.
For sure.
And then I see a last question regarding language targeting. So just for us not to do too much troubleshooting here, I would really advise to reach out to our support team. They will definitely be able to help you out. So just shoot them an email or give them a call or based on what the preferred contact method is here. But they should definitely be able to help you out. So everything related to policies, disapprovals, and so on, reach out to our support. They're there to help, and they will be able to give you an explanation and hopefully sort it out for you.
Yeah. And everything is back to normal. I know last week some of our advertisers had some trouble getting through to the technical team. That was really because of the storm. So that had a huge impact on how we operated here. We had to leave the office for 3 days, but since Monday everything is back to usual. So don't hesitate to call again.
Yeah, Ireland was on a bit of a lockdown, and we had power outage and so on. So unfortunately. All right, cool. So I think that was it. Thank you so much for a lot of great questions here. It's great to see the engagement, and hope we were able to answer most of it and at least lead you to some places to get the remaining answers.
Yeah.
And then I will just say thanks for this time. Thanks for listening in, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So please be back and spread the word so more people can get new insights by listening in.
Exactly. Have a great week, and I hope you won't snow.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Bye, guys. Bye. Thanks.